Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast.
And we're up in 3, 2.
Ice cold.
We're up in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to
Ice
a podcast about AMC's The Terror. This year we're talking about Season 2, The Terror Infamy. And tonight on this podcast we'll be breaking down in detail Episode 6, entitled Mork,
Taizo,
entitled Catfish,
Taizo,
or as me, Bubba, I pronounce it, Taizo. Hey, it's me, Chesterini.
Hey, Fratelli.
We're talking about The Terror Infamy. My name's Bubba, and those two wonderful voices you heard are people who help me break down this very spooky show each week. It's Mork and Catfish. Guys, let's start right at the top with our rankings out of 10. Catfish, you've probably been the most tough critic this season going so far, so what are you going to give to Episode 6?
I'm going to give Episode 6 9.
Whoa.
What I like to call phonetic triple N's.
Phonetic triple N's.
Triple N's.
Yeah. Nature versus nurture knockout.
Ooh, heck yeah.
As we all know, there's been a fight forever. What determines what a human being's personality is? Is it nature versus nurture? And this show strongly comes down on nature because now we finally found out tonight why Chester is such a dick.
Hey, now.
Because he's actually Yuko's son and not Naoko Mori's son.
Well, 9 out of 10. How about one kind of brief hint of why you went so high to 9?
I mean, I just loved the creepiness. I loved the backstory. There was a lot of times when you saw what was coming. I mean, kind of before Chester realizes it, we realize, oh, holy cow, he is her son, which is awesome. I sort of got a little waylaid by the Taizo meaning third son. That was just his name. I thought that was brilliant. All the other stuff was creepy. You know, sometimes a mother's love can be hurtful. I guess that's what the issue is with Yuko. Now we know why Furuya got so bad. You know, and also why there was the delay. She was stuck in a double L for too long.
Double L?
Double L.
Luxurious limbo.
Yeah. Those are nice digs.
Yeah, those are really nice digs. Hey, guys, quick note, stay off the sand.
Got it. Mork, what is your ranking for Episode 6?
I'm giving Taizo 9 triple B's.
Triple B's?
Bakemono bed and breakfasts. I really, really like this episode. Now, to be clear, I have instituted automatic deductions or bonuses based on how much screen time Masako has, played by the lovely and extremely talented Naoko Mori. So did last week deducted because she was barely in it. This week we get a bonus, but I think this episode, I wish it came sooner. I think it saved the season.
Well, somehow, listeners, this is me, Bubba, and I'm going to give it the toughest ranking of anybody. Really not too tough. I'm going to give it 8, what I like to call double M's out of 10.
Double M's? What the heck is that?
Well, everybody knows that double M is an important part of daytime TV. It's a Maury moment. And in tonight's episode, Henry found out you are not the father. Actually, he knew. It was Chester who found out the DNA test results. I thought it was really good. I had one big, oh, bleep moment. And that's when this wonderful actress we keep talking about, Naoko Mori, when she was hugging Chester, and then she had that little neck crack, and you're like, oh, snap, Yuko's back. And it was just great. I was like, oh, my God, this is incredible. And so
that was terrific.
That moment was so strong. It bumped it up to an 8 for me. As we break down the episode, I'll talk about other parts of the episode which I didn't quite enjoy as much. But yeah, really fun, really kind of almost a bottle episode if half the bottle is under the sand in a purgatory.
Bubba, I've got to take issue with you. You know, yes, an 8. How long have we been waiting for the double C moment we got tonight?
Wait, double C?
Yeah, the Chester choking. An episode with Chester getting choked cannot be ranked less than a 9. I disagree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, there are some pretty strict rules that we've got online at Double PHQ. You can check out our instructions for grading an episode. But yeah, that in and of itself was pretty tremendous, Bubba. What the hell?
Well, who cares what I think? Who cares what...
Oh, we don't.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we've made that clear.
But listeners, please, we really care what you think. Write us, as Mork said, on Twitter and Instagram at Double PHQ. That's the word double, a single P, then the letters HQ for headquarters at Double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Double PHQ. We are recording this right after the episode aired, so we don't have too much feedback. But why don't we...
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking of people not caring about what we think, we do have somebody who disagree with all three of us.
Oh, tell us, Catfish.
All right, well, this is Peter Connolly, who said, I found episode 6 strangely disappointing. I don't get why I believe it's Yuko would be angry at Chester if he is her son. That's
wait,
a little bit where I am.
Henry is upset with Chester. Why can't Yuko be upset with Chester?
Henry's adoptive angry.
Henry should have said, I'm glad after all these years I can finally admit you're not my son. That's what he should have said. But let's get back to Peter Connolly. She seems, he refers to Yuko again, to be making bad things happen to him and those around him. But obviously she wanted a baby to take back with her to a strange place where you can't step on the sand, a.k.a. the luxurious limo. I didn't get who the guy raking the sand was. I'm totally confused about it all. I can't wait for your podcast to shed some light on it all.
Ooh, well, why don't we go ahead and say who the man on the sand was, Mork?
You jerk.
No, I don't know. Sorry, I was just throwing it out there. Does anybody know?
No, but I was hoping... Well, it brings up a point I want to make later on, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it could have been Pops from who Chester's real dad. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm just kind of I'm guessing, but you would think that Yuko would actually recognize him. So.
Yeah, he seems a little old. I think he's just there for creepy decoration.
Oh, he did a good job. Listeners, join us at Double PHQ, Facebook.com/Double PHQ, and tell us if we're too oblivious to realize who that man in this dreamscape, in this purgatory was. Because I wasn't sure, but I know when he would look up and look at Yuko, I would be like, oh, snap, Yuko, don't make eye contact.
It was actually, I mean, we'll get into this, but one of the things that was really fun about this episode was you were concerned about Yuko, who's been causing all this havoc for so long, but you're really concerned about her well-being, and oh gosh, is something going to happen to her?
Right.
And that's just a real testament to the amazing actor who plays her, and
also to the actor who plays Chio, who was her tormentress, I guess, in this.
The hostess with the ghostess, you mean?
Yes, excellent.
I tell you, to be honest, this episode and their interaction, it reminded me too much of family reunions.
It reminded you too much of your honeymoon.
Right, exactly. You know, guys, we had two other bits of feedback, which did get into us super quick. So, Mork, do you want to read this next bit of feedback we got?
I'm good. Well, absolutely. Well, this is so cool. Miki Shikawa, who plays Amy, the most efficient straightener outer of C. Thomas Howell that there's ever been. She gave us a damn straight off of one of our tweets, talking about how many great how many ice cold disses that there were, not just in the first half but throughout the episode. So she was into that too, which we appreciate. And then I'm scanning, and maybe Catfish or maybe Bubba, you want to share this, because it's tough to know which one of us, if any of us, is
yeah, I want to hear this because the actress who plays Chester's mom said, "Thank you for pronouncing my name so perfectly," and yet I continue to say it a completely different way than everybody else. Now, listen, I have a little bit of pride.
We don't know who she is.
I have a little bit of pride of ownership here, just having spent 10 years in Hawaii. So if I'm wrong, I will be embarrassed. But I pronounce her name Naoko. And Bubba, how do you pronounce her name?
Chester's mom. No, I'm kidding. I thought it was Naoko Mori.
That is what I just said.
Oh, sorry.
And if people listen like 5-6 minutes ago, they'll hear the way that you normally pronounce it.
Oh well, I said it earlier, and now I'm incredibly. I have enough things to be insecure about, but now I'm really insecure.
So the question is whether Catfish, who says Naoko, is right, or I can't even remember how you guys said it now. Naoko?
Well, I want to change mine because I said it.
Uh-huh.
Well, now I'd like to pronounce it.
Look, stick with your guns. I could be wrong.
Naoko Mori.
Guys, if it's okay, I'd like to.
So there's two O. It's an O sound on both sides of the K. Naoko. Not Naoko. Naoko.
Nobody said that.
Guys, this is Bubba here. I would like to also like to try to mispronounce her character's name, which is, I think, it's Asako.
Do it.
It's Mom.
Is it an Asako? Or Asako? How do you say it?
If it's ASA, it's Asako.
Okay, all right. We may have that correct.
Just like her regular name, though, if it's OKO, it's Oko. Asoko.
Okay.
But if it's ASA, it's Asako.
Well, she also gave us
this whole thing out because I don't think she's going to like us.
Well, she did before she heard this. She gave us this great other note on Twitter where she said,
"We're trying.
You gentlemen are triple B."
Triple B.
Bakimoto bed and breakfast.
No. She said, "Bloody blooming brilliant as always. Cannot wait to hear your thoughts on tonight's epic episode."
It was epic.
It was epic.
For sure.
And because these wonderful actors, we've even had a couple of likes of some of our tweets by Lee Shorten, who plays Amy's brother Walt on the show. I almost think that we need to have a big get-together for the season finale at Catfish's house in NoHo, so all these actors can come over and insult us to mispronounce Bubba and Catfish and Mark. And so, they can give us a bit of...
It's only fair.
Yeah, it's only fair. Guys, we named this podcast about the terror #Ice Cold because the first season was set around the Franklin expedition and the setting was the polar Arctic. It was ice cold. And then we said, well, okay, we'll also talk about ice cold disses that happen in the episode, and somehow that'll be like a theme of the podcast. We kept Ice Cold for Season 2 just because the first episode kind of took place in the winter in December, and so we thought Ice Cold might work. Call me crazy. This episode was nothing but 60 minutes of ice cold disses from one character to another. It was crazy.
It was so good. And the best, there were two of the best ice cold moments. No one even said anything. So we'll get into that later. I don't want to spoil it up the top, but this was chock full of ice cubes tossed in people's faces.
Well, I want to get to two nominees right here at the front. The very first scene, Terminal Island. 1919, so we know we're well before the start of the show. We see that apparently there was an arranged marriage from Yoshida-san between Furuya and Yuko. But, oh boy, it did not go good. Yuko, when Furuya is just going nuts, she's kind of gives him an ice cold diss of, they told me Hideo was a good man. And then he snaps back at her, oh yeah? I asked for a bride, not a whore, a rotten apple. #Ice Cold. We're not even 2 minutes into the episode.
Yeah. Well, before he said that, he said, you come to me spoiled, a rotten apple. Oh man.
Ice Cold.
I mean, it does say something, I guess, very, very positive about Yuko's character that she would admit this. Like, if that was me, I wouldn't, because she pulls open the kimono and okay, so I thought maybe she had some extra bags of peanuts on the flight over she put on. Maybe, but she didn't look pregnant at all. She could have totally just
she looked a little pregnant to me, and by the time you're showing that much, it's pretty close. I'm not sure she could have gotten away with it. And also what I thought was interesting was you kind of, I mean, he was a dick about it, but you kind of do understand Furuya. I mean, it's like he thinks he's having a woman come over, and then she's already pregnant. So
there's that part of it, and there's also that she told everyone. She kept saying, everyone says he's such a nice guy. Everyone I told about this said it wouldn't be a problem. So how many people are going to know of the game she's playing? on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
I feel like she could have explained it, though, because at least the way Chester's mom explained it was that she was married to a soldier. No, it was a soldier. But the question, but I feel like she could have said, like, look, I was married, my husband died in the war, and I have a baby. And it's like, you know, I feel like she could have explained a little bit more.
I don't think there was a whole lot to explain. I mean, just she wasn't that pregnant, right? And then the time where she would have been married, and then he would have died, and then she got pregnant. You know, like it did, and then she has to voyage. I mean, I don't know if there were a lot of flights. I'm assuming she was, you know, she was on a boat. So, you know, I would have loved to have heard the excuse. Lord knows I would have tried to come up with an excuse. But I don't know what it would have been that would have appeased him.
Well, if she could have said, you know, I was married to a soldier, whether she was married or not.
Would someone back in 1919 accept a widow as a wife? Or is that a part of the culture that they wouldn't like? I want to point out that Yoshida...
I don't know. I mean, Furuya is right. I mean, she's way out of his league. So for me, I would have been like, all right, 2 for 1.
Well, Yoshida is the Walt and Amy's family name, and so theoretically this arrangement came through their family, which might explain why Walt and Amy's father was on Yuko's warpath and one of her victims back in an earlier episode. So a year later, 1920, Yuko is homeless. She's in trouble. She does what many of us in modern days would think is the right thing. She gave the baby up for adoption, and she goes to kill herself, and that's where she meets this spirit who tells her, don't do that. This pain will fade away. But instead, Yuko is distraught. And I love this little moment in this where she just doesn't have the strength to walk forward with her eyes open into this suicide, into this death. So she walks backwards into it. I thought that was a wonderful little touch of a real troubling scene.
Yeah, and then we would see that, you know, that would be echoed later on where at the gravesite where you know, where she's got the random baby. There were a lot of little plot-ish things and we'll call them facts that didn't really line up for me. Probably the first one that jumps out, and I'll say it's everything else about it, the tone and the mood, and it was so beautifully shot and it was so wonderfully acted, where I don't care that much. This was a fun, spooky tale that we got, and it almost felt like, I mean, I'm not sure which one of you jerks said it earlier about it being a bottle episode, but it did kind of feel that way. It was a great little ghost story. But
well, as we were watching it, I thought to myself, well, it won't be too hard to figure out which story we'll cover first tonight.
No, it wouldn't. Then we get into this dream world, and I'm going to call it a dream world, a purgatory. Does anybody know any other kind of reference we should be thinking with this static world Yuko finds herself in?
I thought we were going to see Khal Drogo peeking out from behind one of the curtains there for a moment.
Oh, it's the Nightlands. It's the Nightlands from Game of Thrones. All right.
Yeah, exactly. How did our hostess with the ghostess get onto that bridge?
Well, is it possibly tied to a family member? She can look out and protect her family. She certainly seems family is important to her. And she doesn't want an ancestor of hers to commit suicide, but she didn't prevent it. And so now she has a new daughter. I'm your mom now.
Yeah, that would actually be my ice cold. Well, no, I'm skipping ahead. Sorry. So she lets her go, and she was concerned, but also I thought it was weird that she gave her 2 or 3 extra stones and that big cement block and that 5-gallon jug of water. I mean, I just thought it was curious. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, she gave her a chance, right? I mean, she told her everything,
right?
But she was also, it was clear, you know, the rules behind this particular limbo is that she can only have family members there. One of them happens to be, and this is Chiyo I'm talking about. Although the problem is one of her family members is actively trying to swallow her up since Chiyo bounced her own daughter. Now, there was one thing that I was reminded of. I thought it was a great ice-cold moment when Yuko says, it's a self-ice-cold moment when she said, I've made a terrible mistake.
Ouch, ice-cold.
Yeah, and this reminded me of one time I was watching a documentary on people who have jumped off of bridges. And one of the people who survived said, the minute I let go of the railing, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot, from these people too, who somehow miraculously survive. That would be the worst feeling ever, huh?
Right. Whoops. No takebacks.
Okay, well, what did you guys think of this afterlife, which they filmed on a soundstage and gave it that air of, okay, this isn't a real place? What did you guys think of it? We have the sand that you can't step on. We have the possible other ancestor out there raking the stones, raking the sand. We have, of course, Chiyo, who is trying to be wonderful, trying to be like, hey, you're my new daughter. And, of course, as it comes up in a little bit, Yuko says, you're not a mother, you're a demon, #ice cold, which then the Yuri responds, you ungrateful whore.
Yeah.
Shall I throw you back into the depths? Oh, man, ice cold.
I mean, she is ungrateful. She does clang her over the head after all she's done is feed her nice soup and food, and they got calligraphy lessons. I mean, it really seems very swanky. I wouldn't ask any questions. I would just, as long as I had some access to video games, I'd be good. I'm all good.
Here's a question for you two jerks. Okay, so Chiyo is a family member. They're in the same family, and with the insignia, they have the same. She's an ancestor of some antecedents, and clearly family is super important to her.
Mm-hmm.
Would she not be a little upset? She's so family-oriented that Yuko gave away Chester?
Gave away what?
Gave away a family member, another ancestor.
Well, actually, unless she knew how Chester was going to turn out, she's like, okay, good riddance. But, it was kind of curious to me that she's clinging Yuko so closely, and yet Yuko did make this mistake, and the terrible mistake was either giving away Chester or... that's not correct. That's never a terrible mistake. I mean, giving away her baby.
I didn't see it that way, as if the family was so important to her. I saw it as, like families have a certain burial plots or whatever, that only the families who had committed these horrible... this is like the family limbo for the people who have committed these horrible crimes. And that, that's the same thing that Yuko learns later on, is that only the blood can go into that limbo area. So it's not that she's so focused on family, it's that only family members can join her in there. So I didn't think she saw it as like a crime against the family. That didn't seem to be her focus to me.
Guys, this is why I kept mispronouncing this episode as Taizo. Making it sound Italian. Because when I watched this part of the episode, I just kept thinking, when you're here, you're family.
Oh, it hurts so bad.
Oh.
Okay, so Yuko, she wants out of here. She wants to get back to that baby. She realizes she's made a mistake by this suicide. She knocks out the Yurei. She turns a corner. Who's there? The Yurei. Yuko cracks the code. She saw the body floating in the river. She's like, you built this dream world to get your daughter back. And Yurei's like, another ice cold. The Yurei says, my daughter was just like you. Unreasonable, disrespectful, and selfish. Oh,
man. I dare you to find a non-truth in that statement.
You didn't feel a bit sorry for Yuko? I almost feel like this is a bit of sympathy for the monster that we got in this. So... yes, this Yurei is calling her unreasonable, disrespectful, and selfish. What Yuko did was a tragic mistake, but then to kind of throw this disrespectful, selfish things on somebody who's screwed their soul and killed themselves, that's a bit much, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, the truth is that, up to this point in the timeline, the only person that Yuko has injured has been herself. She protected Chester, who, as we all know, didn't deserve it, by kind of giving him up rather than make him scrounge on the streets, whereas our girl Chiyo has done something horrible to a member of her own family. It's the reverse. It's the diametric opposite. Yuko gave up her child so the child could have a better life. And Chio got rid of her child so Chio could have a better life without the nattering of her child.
It does. I mean, another question that it brings up is what. I mean, so if she's in a limbo, I mean, the U-Ray, they can do things, but they're not creating. They're not manifesting and building and trapping people in different planes of existence. So is Chio more of a godlike figure than a U-Ray?
Maybe in this limbo she is. That's what it felt like. She certainly had powers in the limbo.
Because we don't see her doing any bone or neck cracking. There's no wind whooshing when she showed up, on the bridge. All her skin seems to be on her face. These are important things to take note of when you're in some sort of other dimension.
True, but there was also a lot of symbolism. If you're in paradise in another dimension, but a bug keeps coming around, that bug is the symbol of, hey, something ain't right here in paradise.
Well, that means that they kill all the spiders. We need spiders, people, even in paradise. Thank you.
Yuko is terrible. She tricks the U-Ray into stepping on the sand so the daughter can pull her mom down there into the abyss with her. Oh, great.
Awesome.
Yes.
That was awesome. Yeah, this show, and it's been doing it all year, but this year, at this episode, I think it packed the most of these moments, of these sequences where any one frame would be a super creepy, incredibly evocative painting that you could just, if you wanted to have a really creepy room in the house, any one of these things, the floating underneath the water, even the stuff with the bug, and also the quicksand. The quicksand was just, it was so cool.
Yuko sees that she can step on the sand now. She gets to the door out of this limbo, and she sees dirt. She sees earth. And she has to fight her way through the dirt, through the earth, to dig herself out of her own grave. Welcome to 1941, guys.
Yeah, so glad to be back where we are, because I know that means we're going to see Chester soon.
July, we jump ahead 2 years because she comes out right before the series begins, I believe. We jump to July of 1943. Wake up, buddy, you're home. Chester is back at the camp.
And boy, Chester's arrival. You imagine the guys in the writers' room are like, Chester's arrival. They start rubbing their hands together. Okay, who are we going to have trash talk the hell out of Chester? Well,
it was Amy's mom, Amy and Walt's mom.
Yeah, the first thing she says is that boy brings pain. And I was thinking, yeah, to my ass. That's the pain he brings. Right?
Oh.
And then she said, and that's where we learn, we get an inkling.
Mm-hmm.
We get an inkling when she says to Chester's mom, it's your fault those babies died. If you hadn't been so selfish. What?
Whoa, I even thought the diss of, my son is safer in Italy on the war front. Ow, it's cold.
It was so good. And then Chester's mom says, my son is a hero, a soldier. What are you? And then, oh, yeah, the backhand. So good.
The nonverbal ice cold. I love it. Guys, one thing we have talked a bit about, but probably never enough, is the great acting on this show. Don't you guys agree?
I agree.
So to honor that great acting, I typed out what Luz wrote in her letter to Chester, and I thought I would deliver it as a dramatic monologue.
Well, let's hear it.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
We were thrust together into the real world, such a harsh reality, and I was married. I didn't know if you could become the man I needed you to be. I didn't know if I wanted you to be that person for sure. Still, the same boy I met in history class, but you grew. You became exactly the man I needed you to be. You were no longer a boy, you were a man. My man.
I can't tell if you're making fun of the letter, if this is the actual letter.
I fell in love with that man.
It's up in the air.
I could see so clearly I could live together, away from this horrible place, our home, our family. But everything changed that night. The loss of our children has clouded it all. I tried to wait for you. I thought I could be brave enough to see you, but I couldn't. I know all I will see in your face is a future that can never be. I wish it could be different. I wish I could be stronger. I'm sorry. Lose. And scene. Wow. Emmy submission tape right there, guys. Love it.
I'm with Mark. I still don't know if that was the real letter or not.
It was. I'm pretty sure that was. Luz has sloppy handwriting. I couldn't get every word down.
I mean, if you're pretty sure, I guess I'll just accept that.
That was. Well, it's a good thing that Luz isn't working for C. Thomas Howell as a secretary. That's what she's composing.
Quick note: Did she make any hearts as dots for the eyes?
Oh, wait a minute. Underneath Luz, she wrote in parentheses over. So Chester flips it over and she says,
"Okay,
P.S. Share this with Henry. We really didn't get along for a long time, but then you became the man I thought your son was."
Oh boy! Now I know it's for real. This letter.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, guys. So the spirit follows you. Asako goes to hug her son, and it's that ice cold neck snap. And I really did go, "Oh, this is insane."
Yeah.
And then Chester's like, Mom, and the Yuri-possessed mom is now like, "She's no mother, she's a thief."
This was so great and so cool, and I actually wish that we didn't get it all this week. I think if it could have ended on a cliffhanger of Asako's neck cracking, and one thing that they skipped. And they do this a lot. And last week they did this, and they skipped last episode. Bakemono is crawling towards Chester in the jungle, and then cut to he's back on the other side. I want to get a little bit of what happened between that. It just scared him. Did it do anything? Did it crawl inside? Did it give him a hug? Like I don't know. And so I would have liked to have seen something, other than just. Yeah, well, there was a Jeep accident, So, we know there was a Jeep accident, but we also got to see what happened after the Jeep accident. So, there's all these great little things that I think could be super interesting to see. And when we saw him, and then we didn't really see him behaving any differently other than, war is hell.
That's not true, because he said, I know for real this is happening now. He takes it for real, and then it's coming after him. That it's not just this thing is happening. It's coming after him.
It came after him. He was prone. He was stuck on the ground. There's a car on top of him. It's crawling towards him. Then what happened?
Okay, I know. I get that. But I completely understand that. But you can't say that he's unchanged by it. He knows now, for real, he is the frickin' target. Right,
but so the thing came out. I know it's such a giant thing to ignore. Where it went back in the bag, and then he took the bag with him. They set up a lot of really cool things last week, and then they're not necessarily rules, but it's sort of part of the game. And then they're just throwing them out.
Yeah, did Yuko get shipped back to the camp? In that bag, they're like, "Oh, you know what? This bag was left here. Let's ship it back."
It's got to belong to somebody. You can't have an extra bag in the jungle. Look, we got to take care of the planet. People go green.
I mean, that is very smart of you to think of, Mark. I was so excited by the scene. I'm looking at my notes here. I said, "Yeah, kill Chester."
Hey.
With an exclamation point. So I was
yeah, so and this is we don't need to go backwards, but this it just says that this last half, and I'm not actually clear how much of the episode it was, because it felt like we were maybe the first 2/3 of the episode were in limbo.
It was half. It was half.
Was it half? Okay. So I would have liked to have spent a little bit more time just stretching this out, because it was just so good that I wanted to enjoy a little bit more of it.
See, and I was happy that we finally got to it. I mean, that we fought. I've been complaining about this for 4 episodes now. Like,
right.
Why? So, I mean, when the episode started, I'm like, oh, thank God, we're going to find out why.
Yeah, no. I mean, I am totally down. It was just such a. Now, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but personally, I think that Asako's wardrobe this week was a bit stuffy. Like the sweater covering. I prefer the evening gown from the dance sequence. I think she should be dressed like that every episode. That's just my thing.
Our wardrobe budget isn't that high, Mork. They got. Did Catfish, because you have been wanting this so much, I wondered if in any way this retroactively made you enjoy the previous episodes more or be upset with the previous episodes more because you're like, if I had known this, I could have enjoyed them more. What was your thought process once you got this really big reveal?
I mean, I understand why they did it, because it still feels like the only reason they're holding it back is because it was supposed to be a surprise that it was Chester, and I mean, I think in a movie you could do it halfway through. That's an hour in, but I still think it was too late. But that's the thing I was thinking. I'm thinking this is too late, but it's happened, and so now I can go forward. So I don't think I don't think that it was the right decision to do it now. I understand why they did, but they've done it now. So now at least we can move forward with that, because that was really hanging out there weirdly.
One thing that might explain this, Catfish, and also Bubba, was we see that there's and I'm going to refer to her as Asako Mono strangling Chester.
Yes.
I think what we stumbled into, possibly, and I could be wrong, I think we may have stumbled into a bit of fan fiction that had been written by Henry. Is that possible? Somehow he got some pages into over to the guys in Burbank. Got it in this week. But don't you think there'd be a little bit more, like, knowing the story between Yuko and I'm going to butcher his name. I'm sorry, Furuya. I'm so sorry. Wouldn't Asako, if it's like, hey, what happened? You remember when you threw my sister out into the street and then she killed herself? Like,
Good point.
I mean, just so as you were talking about looking back, I mean, an episode like this, it just raises all these questions from previous. So, but he's blind and he's dead and all that stuff. So we don't have to worry about him too much. But.
All those things are good.
Yeah.
Now, I think the next thing that happens is, and again, this is, I want to go directly to my notes so I make sure I get this correct. So Chester finds out that he's adopted and is predictably a little bitch about it.
Oh, he was so terrible. I was watching people's reactions on Twitter, and when he delivers to Henry, his father, let's call him his father, Chester gives him an ice cold. He goes, father. "You don't you call me son?" Something like that. "She's my blood. You're nothing." Oh, ice cold, Chester. Why would you do this, Chester? We want to like you, but oh my goodness,
horrible. Yes. I would have said to him, it makes complete sense that this cold crew killer is your mother, because you're a dick.
Hey, now.
I thought Henry was going to respond and say, yeah, well, at least I'm not the guy who almost boned his ghost mom at a whorehouse.
Well, hold on. We haven't seen a Henry flashback yet, so we don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, man. Just horrible.
Okay, so who do you turn to when you've got ghost problems? Who you going to call? George Takei. And so
can we just explore for a moment? Would it be possible that either George Takei or the Japanese soldier who Chester let kill himself last week, is it possible that either of them are Chester's real father?
Ooh.
Throwing it out there.
That would be great.
I would not think so, but since this show really has become a tragedy...
The best thing would be if C. Thomas Howell was his father.
There's still time.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, Bubba, you okay?
Oh, man, that nearly broke me to think that Major Bowen was being the father. That would be shocking.
It would be terrible.
Do we want to talk about the moment where Yuko goes and steals another kid and thinks I'm going to take her back to my place?
Yeah, how? I mean, one thing, and it's she's a lovely looking person and everything, but how did she? Last time we saw her on Earth, she was the cat was out of the bag, and she looked like she had just crawled out of the oil field, and then when we saw her in the camp before, she was wearing the mask and all that. So is she sewing? Is she kind of going back to sewing her face back on because she's just strolling through things, or are we just seeing? What are we seeing? This is we're looking at her in a different plane.
Right. It is a little wonky, right? When we see her and other people do see her, as opposed to when she takes people over. I mean, it's not even clear to me why she left Chester's mom, most importantly, before the job was done.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She only needed just a few more squeezes. Everything would end so happily.
Terrible.
There's always next week.
Chester choking. Could Chester have gone with her to the grave? They both fall over backwards, and then they're both in the limbo and living together happily ever after? Question mark.
Oh, I think that's a good possibility.
That's a bold prediction, Bubba?
Well, no, it almost seems ridiculous in some ways, but that seems to be the only thing, because as the end of the episode proved, you can try to destroy her body, but Yuko is determined. She ain't going out like that. And let's be honest, there are no guards at this camp. You can just burn down a barrack and it doesn't matter. Just shoot off some fireworks. Whoops.
I don't understand how they got the fireworks. Like they don't even let them have sake, for God's sakes. Now they're giving them fireworks.
Well, the fireworks could have been for the soldiers who should have been guarding the camp when it burned down.
Oh, okay.
I think they were being. They could see them, but they weren't being set off by the residents.
Okay,
that was my thinking. But yeah, so they get started, and Catfish, you were saying earlier about how Yoshida-san is like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but
I'll give it a shot.
But look, guys, if anyone says to you, little something I learned in the Merchant Marine, if someone tells you, look, I don't know what I'm doing, but I need some gasoline and some barbed wire, just don't go along with it. Just walk away.
And also some body paint.
And some body paint. And he got to work, and I couldn't tell, was there any connection to what she and Chio were writing in Double L Limbo Land and what was painted on her face? Was there any similarity, any connection to that, or just?
I could not notice it, but we are immediately after the show. Listeners, if you notice something, some correlation between these two things, once again, at Double PHQ.
If you're going to copy down a bunch of handwriting, I mean, I think you got to go with Yoshida-san's handwriting, not Luz's.
Okay, here we go. Yoshida-san is writing on her face, "We were thrust together into the real world. Such a harsh reality. I didn't know if you'd become the man." Oh, wait, sorry. He was just copying Luz's letter.
Yeah, you sure it wasn't? Shatner was always a jerk, even at the beginning.
Well, Yuko survived, guys. What does this mean? How can you defeat her? What is left of her body that could leave footprints, but...
Well, they did say, and this is the thing that was confusing to me, they said she just needs to inhabit a body. She's not in the body right now. It still seems to me that she can skip around at will, really. So,
yeah, her first, that they were looking at her 20-year-old corpse, and it looked as good as new, or as good as it did when actually a lot better, because when she died, her hair was not looking like silk. So there's all of that, which I don't understand at all.
Right now, presumably, the whole idea of writing on her skin is to keep her trapped inside that body while she burns. so that she won't be able to go anywhere. But again, if you're writing stuff like that Chekhov too, I don't know. What a jerk.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy in those tight pants. Oh my.
Oh my, indeed. It did look like for a minute when, as the fire really got going, that Yoshida-san may have been trying to lock Chester inside with her.
Hey, now.
Yes.
But no, I really loved that she survived. And she's certainly, as we're talking through it and we have the benefit of hindsight and we can kind of, pick it apart. But, that aside, this was fun. It was spooky. There was a lot of cool surprises. And, it's sort of like how I have enough sympathy for her where I'm rooting for her now more than I am for Chester.
Well, this is the thing. I feel like I've come to a point here. I have gone past the point of no return as far as caring about Chester's redemption.
Oh, he's a jerk.
And I think that's a problem, right? But, there are a lot of stories where someone starts off as kind of a jerk and then they become redeemed. I'm past the point of I don't care. That will not be, his redemption is not satisfying to me. I want him to die.
Hey, now, let me ask you.
I do.
Well, let me ask you something though. You watched Mad Men. Spoiler alert, you were in an episode of Mad Men. Don Draper on Mad Men, another AMC show, he was always kind of an a-hole.
Not like this.
No, he was worse. He was cheating on his wife. He treated employees terribly. He was a real jerk sometimes.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Don Draper over Chester.
My goodness.
But he was also somebody who he was a very charismatic guy. He did have some sort of very clear, and it could have been a temporary thing, but there's always something that he was trying to do. But one of the tricky things with Chester is he's just kind of complaining about everything. And it's not that he doesn't have things to complain about, but compared to his father or his mother, either one, he continues to act this way. And you have all these other, people who are dealing with all kinds of, humiliation and suffering on all these, just really profound levels. And he just doesn't have time for that, man. It's just like, what a jerk. It's a tough spot. It's just a tough spot for that character to be able to come out of. And I'm more interested in how things turn out for Yuko and obviously Asako. Henry, I'm Team Henry. But yeah, Chester is sort of this.
Team Henry the whole way. I strangely have. This is a problem that I have. I'm incapable of watching any Danny McBride shows just because I find the characters too despicable. I wasn't able to watch Girls because I found those characters despicable. So, it's a particular quirk that I have where I'm just like, thank God there are people to root for on this show. I'm just not interested in watching jerks.
Yeah, I feel bad. I was going to show you my home movies, but apparently not now.
Well, I'm already well versed on your personality, Bubba.
Guys, next week we're going to be looking at an episode entitled My Perfect World. The Nakayamas have been torn apart, and Chester searches for the person he believes can help, even if it means taking drastic action. A tuberculosis outbreak in the community forces Amy to act. Tuberculosis outbreak in the community forces Amy to act, even though she's caught between doing what she's told and doing what's right. Ooh.
Oh, man. Do you think she's going to point out that the commanding officer of their camp would, in future years, appear in blackface? Do you think she might blackmail him?
Well, which is worse, that or tuberculosis?
Blackface.
Okay. Boy, he will never be forgiven for this, guys. Let C. Thomas Howell live.
Well, look, if Yuko has anything to do with it, maybe Yuko needs to inhabit, C. Thomas Howell or somebody else who.
That would be great.
That would
is on
be
the
good.
other side of the.
Could she inhabit Chester's father like that?
Hey now, guys, come on.
I'm starting a rumor. Let's see if it gains any traction.
Oh, it definitely will.
Guys, that's our coverage of episode 6. I think it's now time for our hashtag ice cold winner of the week. The biggest diss in an episode packed with disses. Does anybody want to name their number one choice for ice cold diss this week?
Oh, I'm going to nominate this one. Well, first, the one that I wish had happened was when Chester was laying at the graveyard. I wish that Henry had come out and said, "Oh, good. All we need to do is dig a hole."
Yeah.
But he actually didn't. No, but when Chio says we have each other now, that was super cold. And,
oh, yeah.
That was rough. What about you guys?
Yeah, Bubba, what do you think?
Well, I still think in an episode of so many, just too many to mention, ice cold disses, I'm going to go with the nonverbal slap as the number one ice cold moment of the week.
Oh, I'm going to second that emotion.
Listeners, once again, who cares what we think of these ice colds? Let us know your ice cold moment of the week. Let us know what your favorite thing is. Let us know how to pronounce these wonderful actors' names. You can do it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/PHQ, or at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram. For everybody here at Double P Media and Double P Podcast, my name's Bubba. You can find me individually on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENDRIM, at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I am Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter.
Mark is at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with a W in front of the final R. And we'll see y'all next time
on
Ice Cold.
We were thrust together into the real world.
No,
such a harsh reality.
No more thrusting.
You gotta stop.
I didn't know if Mork or Catfish could become the man I needed them to be. I didn't know if I wanted you to be the person for sure.
Like reading
or
a
still be the same
Antonio
boy
Brown
that I met.
Do you know what's going to be great is seeing Yuko chase and hopefully scare the bejesus out of Chester for the next 3 or 4 weeks. That's what I'm hoping for. I am really excited about that.